Marriage is not even in their vocabulary. No one they know in their family structure is married, almost no one. Or when you're married and have kids, and he said, I'm not going to get married. And I said, well, aren't you going to have children? He said, well, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of children. And that tells you just the mentality of where they're coming from and the battle that we're facing and trying to teach these boys about the importance of faithfulness in marriage and what that means.
I am so excited to speak with our guest today, Jeff Bird, who's a personal friend and founder of Hope Academy and Hope Farm School. Hope Academy is a private, Christ-centered classical academy founded as an opportunity equalizer for urban youth. Today, they serve over 500 students in K through 12 with a vision of growing to 700 students. So welcome to Fully Charged. We're your hosts, Kendall and Sheila Qualls.
And Jeff, welcome. We know you personally. Our audience doesn't know you. So we live in a world where we hear about white privilege and white supremacy, and you serve kids that don't look like you, and you've been doing it for decades. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your wife, Whitty, and your journey in starting Hope Academy.
I've learned to serve others as Jesus Christ served us. And so it was really that turning point 25 years ago where my eyes were opened to the needs of the world, and I really had a desire to serve other people. And I started right here in the inner city. I thought one of the greatest needs is quality education, and so we didn't know what we were doing, but along with Russ Gregg, we started Hope Academy, and we forged forward, and that's growing, as Sheila said, to over 500 students today. So, and my latest work of love is the Hope Farm School, where at Hope Academy, there's a group of kids and the Hope Academy does great, but we start at kindergarten. And by the time these kids are in middle school, they're ahead of the national average on scoring. But if you try to insert somebody in there in middle school who came from usually a public school, they're behind and they just don't catch up. We always said it's like trying to put a Model T on an on-ramp to 35W and saying, go ahead and accelerate and merge into traffic. And it just doesn't happen because there's so many issues there. And so I grew up in a farm. We just need to get these boys out of the city and teach them some of the basics of life, in addition to teaching that God has a plan for their life and give them a reason and a hope to study hard and to work hard, and that's proved to be true. The boys at the farm school, they do tremendous after they're there for 1 or 2 years, and we keep them all the way through high school. It's a residential living situation, and it's going wonderful.
Well, can you give us an example of, you said, being out on the farm is good for them, of an example of like a real life experience that they get on the farm that's going to help them in real life?
Yeah, well, a lot of people ask that, are you trying to make them into farmers? And the answer is no. Very unlikely that any of them will end up being a farmer. But we call those are like hard skills, farming skills, or math, or science. What we're really working on are the soft skills. So there's like 7 or 8 of them: how to go to bed on time and get up on time, how to show up on time to class or work or whatever it is, listen to instructions, how to get to your work, not to distract others, and then finish your work and put everything away. So those are the foundational soft skills that we hope everybody learns there. And of course, the biggest soft skill is developing a faith in Jesus Christ, which will heal. Everybody has hurts, heal all their wounds and their hurts, and give them a hope and an optimism about their future.
No, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about that as it relates not just to the farm school itself, but the boys, their lives, what it was like typically for them prior to them coming to the farm school.
Yeah, well, I think I got an education as much as anybody because we work very intimately with the families, and all the boys pretty much are fatherless. But you realize what life is like without a father. There's no protection, there's no provision. And these boys are literally on their own starting about age 13. Yes, their mothers love them dearly, but they cannot provide everything that a boy needs. And in the inner city, there's tremendous temptation and pressures for these boys to do anything other than doing what's right. They don't see any reason to study, so they don't. A lot of them weren't even going to school before they came to the farm school.
Yeah, you mentioned the mothers. So, how do you convince a mom to allow her son to go live on a farm with you for 5 days during the week?
Yeah, that's not an easy task. I mean, some mothers have see the light, I would say, and are more willing to do that. But it's a delicate balance because before the boy hits puberty, like maybe age 10, 11, and 12, they're like, oh, I can never part with my son. We're so close and they're sweet together. And then they'll call me a year or two later when they're 13 or 14, and they're saying, oh, I really need to get him to the farm. And I said, well, tell me what's going on. They say, well, he's not coming home and he's not doing this. And so at that point, it's usually too late. That boy is not going to he's not going to give up freedom and all the things that he's doing to come to a farm school. So it's a delicate balance and a point of inflection to really convince them that this is something that their boys are going to need. And they have to have a little bit of vision. I would say, God has to help influence them in order to have them have their boy come to the school. So it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to get them there. But as we tell them, this is not a we're not a reformatory. So we're trying to be formational in boys' lives and catch them before they end up getting too far down the road.
Tell us about that process. We're going to play a clip of I think it's Carl that actually is selling the beef on that. We're going to show that video.
Today we are selling cows, and we have live cows right here behind me, and we have butchered cows already in the locker room ready to be sold. And we wondered if you guys could come down and buy our beef and then help out the farm school. And for the kids here, they can get good grades and all that stuff, and for we can have more kids to come to the school. And thank you guys for buying our beef.
One of our neighbors down at the farm said, you should really do organic grass-fed beef. And he said, you have to move the cattle every day, so that provides meaningful work. You have to get out there and chop the weeds with hoes and machetes. You have to put up fence. And he said, I just think that would be a really good product for you. And you make more because it's organic grass-fed beef. You sell it for about twice as much. And so that's what we decided to do. And in the process, we're selling it retail to customers, which allows our boys to tell their story to more and more people. And so we do videos. We have a list of all our contacts. And so the boys get on the phone and they get practice, have practice telling them about their beef and all the things they do. And I just tell them, if you can sell on the phone, boy, you can get a job doing anything. And then on Saturdays, we have a little locker freezer up here. We pack it up in boxes and they drive around and deliver it.
Can you give us an example of what you'd call a success story? Someone who was like this, came to the farm, but they left a different way, and what they went on to do in life.
Yeah, I mean, we've got several of them. We've only been there 5 years now. We've already had 6 graduates. We're going to graduate 5 more boys this year, and the farm's got about 20 students right now. We're going to max out at 30. One of our first students, he's been there about 3 years. He just graduated. He was behind several years. He was in a house where every time you went in there, it reeked of marijuana. And, he just saw the vision of what we're doing at the farm school. Well, he's an African-American young boy, and he went from being 2+ years behind to being 2+ years ahead, and got a full ride scholarship to the University of St. Thomas.
Wow, that's great. I just want to speak about one particular graduate that I know of that you've mentioned who actually got married. So, I mean, we may think that's not a big deal, but in a culture with these young boys, getting married is kind of a different thing, kind of a new thing for them.
Yeah, boy, I know you've spent a lot of time on that, Kendall and Sheila, but marriage is not even in their vocabulary. No one they know in their family structure is married, almost no one. And so one of the boys I was talking to, he's been there just a little while. I was saying, well, when you have kids, I can't remember what point I was making, or when you're married and have kids, and he said, I'm not going to get married. And I said, well, aren't you going to have children? He said, well, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of children. And that tells you just the mentality of where they're coming from and the battle that we're facing and trying to teach these boys about the importance of faithfulness in marriage and what that means for raising children.
You guys do incredible work with those boys. It is just absolutely amazing. Do you have any plans for a Hope Farm School for girls?
That was always one of my original visions. And I hope that will still happen one day. We could, and it could happen any day. What we really need is a woman to lead that initiative. And I think we have facilities where that can take place, and it's desperately needed as well. So I don't know, Sheila, you might be the person.
That was just a question.
Oh, well, that's funny. Well, listen, Jeff, if someone wants to find out more about Hope Academy, Hope Farm School, where do they go?
Yeah, go to the website, go to hopeacademy.org, or go to hopefarmschool.org. Hope Academy is just a mile from my office down here in Minneapolis. And Hope Farm School, it's about an hour and a half, which seems like a long ways, but I drive it 4 days a week. I work here in the cities, and I go down to the school several times a week. And so, yeah, go to the website, and all the information is there. We'd love to have you guys come and visit. Actually, October 15th, I think that's not this Saturday, next Saturday, we're going to have an open house at the farm school between 11 and 3, and it is a gorgeous drive. The colors are going to be at full color. So if you have any interest at all, come down and visit us.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us. I've enjoyed the conversation, as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for this episode of Fully Charged. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, or any other podcast platform. And if you like what you see, please give us a 5-star rating while you're there.
And to find out more about Take Charge, go to our website at takechargemn.com and subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please support us. With your help, we're going to bring back the America that we all knew and loved.